Good afternoon, students. Are you listening my voice? Right. In the yesterday's class, we discussed about things regarding the women studies. As a part of women studies, discussed about the theories, various approaches, and certain trends, uh, recent trends in women studies. Okay. So today we are going to see about the women question. The women question in the colonial India. Okay, so before going to my discussion today, my explanation today, I have to share my screen. Okay, right. The women's question, like the untouchability question or the communal question, emerged during the national movement as a political question that had to be solved uh, to give shape to vision of a free Indian nation. And as a political aspects of women's equality or inequality has never received adequate attention from the historians or other social scientists, a neglect which has helped to perpetuate many ambiguities, misconceptions, and undervaluation of the women issue. Okay, so the primary role of women's studies in the contemporary period or the modern period is to rectify the this neglect and to generate both the empirical data and theoretical perspectives to place the uh, women's issue in its proper context. Okay, so I will, and the women's question in India, which is from the 19th century to some contemporary researching, undoubtedly suggesting that the debate has a much older history. From the 19th century, however, and particularly from the beginnings of Indian press, the women's question has formed one of the major issues in social debate. First among social reformers, then among the nationalists, and finally in the contemporary period, among all those who are concerned with the problems of development, of growing inequality, poverty, and unemployment. Okay, so this can be we can discuss in the three phases. Okay, so in the first phase, uh, the women's question emerged essentially in the context of identity, crisis of the new educated middle class, the first products of the colonial system of education, and many of them trying to imitate the lifestyles of colonial rulers found the condition of their own movement to be a stumbling block. And the criticism of many of our traditional customs, like the treatment meted out to widows, child marriage, and the denial of education to women, were felt to be blots on our society, which earned very rightly the criticism of Western commentators. Okay, the first generation of reformers were anxious to remove those blots. Okay, so um, and there were only a few reformers who went beyond the need to imitate the West and began to address some of the other instruments that were used to subjugate the oppressed women. Okay, so in the second phase, namely in the last quarter of 19th century, women's question got increasingly colored by the rise of cultural nationalism and revivalism as a counterattack uh, to spread the Western influence and values in our society, particularly among the educated youth. Okay, so the revivalists interested in conserving indigenous cultural traditions began to support the women's education against the attack of orthodoxy on the grounds that women's education would help to strengthen the hold of indigenous culture through the institution of the family. Okay, so the growing communication a gap caused by only men receiving modern education. Okay, so in their opinion, was eroding the ability of women to influence the men in their family, and educating them would improve their status within the family and introduce a break on the increasing influence of Western values and culture over the minds of young men. Okay, so the cultural nationalists thus introduced a new concept into the women's question, a woman as the custodians of traditional cultural values. Okay, so and the voice of dissent was present also during this second phase, writing around 1890s. Jyotiba Phule, whose primary concern was to break the hegemony of the high caste, referred to the subjugation of women as an instrument for maintaining Brahmanical dominance in Indian society. And during the same period, B.M. Malabari demonstrated for the first time the role that press would play in mounting a social campaign in the agitation that promoted for the age of consent bill. Okay, so for the first time, readers of this the Times of India read out real life stories of women who had experienced torture and oppression in the hands of their husbands. Okay, so these were the two important pioneers. One is Jyotiba Phule and B.M. Malabari were the two Indians who made their efforts to break the gap between the women and men ideology. Okay, so when you see in the same period, I will give you one more thing. In the 19th century, the women question loomed large. Okay, so this was not a question of the what do women want, but rather how can be how can they be modernized? Okay, so it became the central question in the 19th century British India, because the foreign rulers had focused their attention on these particular aspects of the society. Okay, so which is and they are publicly announcing that civilizing mission, which is influential British writers condemned the Indian religions, culture, and society for their rules and customs regarding the woman. Okay, so the British were not the first outsiders with radically different cultural traditions to conquer India. Centuries earlier, Muslim dynasty had entered in the Indian subcontinent from the northwest and brought to India a new religion and a new way of organizing power relations. But significant changes that affected the lives of ordinary people first came with the British rule. Okay, so the traditional Hindu society was decentered, and previous challenges from foreign invaders had allowed to remain so. So the traditional state collected the rents and demanded obedience, but did not interfere with the social order. Muslim rule did not significantly alter this structure, but the British, pursuing the commercial aims, introduced new relationships and explained their actions within a view of the world that was clear, precise, instrumentalist, technical, scientific, effective, true, and beneficial to all who came into contact with it. Okay, so the 19th century was a time of political, social, and scientific upheaval in Europe, and the British regarded their domination of subcontinent as a proof of their moral superiority. In arguments over how do best rule their colonial subjects in India, they were led to discussions of the ideal relationship between men and women. Okay, so when you see certain statements of James Mill in his influential history of British India, which was first published in 1826, argued that women's position could be used as a indicator of society's advancement. Okay, so the formula was simple. Among rude people, the women were generally degraded. Among civilized people, they were exalted. Okay, so Mill explained that as societies advance, the conditions of weaker gender is gradually improved till they associated on equal terms with the men and occupy the place of voluntary and useful things. Okay, so and when you see certain things which happened in colonial India, and uh, where the missionaries they entered in India and pronounced Indian disunity, a consequence of low status of women, and many uh, and certain and also these missionaries which concentrate on lower sections and also among the women, because these two as a part of women in the society, as a important gender which had certain drawbacks, and there is uh, there is some negligence. They find some negligence, irrespect in the modern colonial society, colonial traditional Hindu society. Okay, so the missionaries want to rectify it, and they want to modify, and they want to improve the status of particular women, particularly from the lower class sections. Okay, so and in the same way, these colonial rulers, as a part of Western education, Western education on the European model, they encouraged these women from Indian traditional structure, traditional society, encouraged to towards the educational, towards the Western education, and in the same way, many reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai and Malbari and Jyotiba Phule, Vidyasagar, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, like many reformers, they also mobilized these women in the Hindu society, Hindu traditional society towards the education. In the same way, those reformers who started certain educational institutions with the help of Christian missionaries to encourage the education among the Hindu women, basically. Okay, so and this the colonial domination set the change in motion. Indians reshaped the imported ideas and institutions to fit the social and cultural mile. Okay, so and the historian Rajat K. Roy described the impact of imported ideas in the sense of Western ideas on the Bengal Renaissance, when intellectuals in Eastern India were rediscovering their past and engaging in new intellectual activity in the intellectual activity. Okay, so and uh, the ideology that emerged to redefine gender relations was an amalgam of new foreign ideas, indigenous concepts, and the response of Indian men and women to the foreign presence in their midst. Okay, so and not all agreed that gender relations needed modification. A number of Indian intellectuals praised their own culture's treatment of women or compared the condition of Indian women with those of European women and concluded that female in both countries suffered certain hardships. Okay, so those who accepted the idea that society's ills could be traced to the oppressed conditions of women saw female education and female emancipation as the first step towards the progress. Okay, so both groups, those who extolled gender relations and those who convinced of the need for reform, shared an ideology. Okay, so later linked to the nationalist project that separated the home from the world. Okay, so and according to the Partha Chatterjee, Indians pursued science, technology, rational economics, and Western political form, while regarding the home as a source of true identity. Okay, so that needed protection and strengthening, not transformation. Okay, so and by the last decade of 19th century, there was recognizable reformist ideology. The shape of this ideology, particularly in its view of women, was retained throughout much of the 20th century, and first and foremost, Indian women were to be pitied. In 1819, Mahesh Chandra Dev spoke to the Society for the Acquisition of General Knowledge about the daily life of young married women. Okay, so and in the theme of this Chandradev's speech, the misery of the Indian woman echoed the Western critics of Indian society and was repeated in the speeches and essays throughout the century. But humanitarianism was only one of the arguments used to urge reform. Inspired and influenced by the Western ideas, these reformers were also convergent with their own traditions. Okay, so Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Pandit Vidyasagar, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, and many others were trained in Hindu classics and saw India as a recovering from a dark age. Okay, so there had been a golden age they argued when women were valued and occupied position of high status. Okay, so and um, high status. Um, and This view of the Vedic past had been adapted from the Indologists and was useful uh, to this this J.S. Mills version of India. Okay, so during the golden age, women were educated, married only after they had reached maturity, moved about freely, and participated in the social and political life of the time. The power of such an idea may well have stifled serious historical research on women's lives until the contemporary period. Okay, so in the same way, Uma Chakravarti, one of the uh, women activist writer, has argued that for contemporary women, this perception of the past has led to a narrow and limiting circle uh, circle in which the image of Indian womanhood has become both a shackle and a rhetorical device that nevertheless functions as a historical truth. Okay, so and truth. And When you see the golden age and dark age are problematic for historians, but these concepts proved useful in the development of an ideology legitimating social reform. Okay, so and um, uh, when you see the things which reform actually a return to the past according to most social reformers was in harmony with both natural law and dictates of the region. Okay, so evil customs, evil customs such as child marriage and polygamy were not in harmony with nature. When Ramohan Rai wrote of women who were forced upon the fight, bound with ropes so they would perish with their husbands. Okay, so Vidyasagar wrote for customs which had hampered the evolution of our faculties, and D.K. Karve wrote of a caste a widow who fell victim to the passion of some brute. Okay, so according to the reformers, these customs were perverted, twisted, distorted practices born of ignorance and fear and followed without recourse to common sense. Okay, so and the first generation Western educated young men had evoked reason as a touchstone for the both ideas and action. These later advocates the social reform combined rationalism with their appeal to revive the golden age. Okay, so according to Vivekananda, there should be no there should be no hesitation in applying the full panoply of Western analytical methods to the science of religion. Okay, so similarly, Swami Dayananda made it clear that he could not defend the falsehoods of the Hindu religion, but would unveil them just as he had exposed the errors of the religions. Okay, so these things we may find in the second phase of this woman's question. Okay, so in the third phase, when you see in the third phase, the women question began to increasingly intertwine with the trends with the national movement. A handful of women got involved in revolutionary activities and challenged their leaders' refusal to allow them to participate fully in freedom movement. As the movement increasingly took a turn, towards mass mobilization, women's participation in numbers became increasing numbers became visible and raised basic questions. Okay, so 19th century reformers, being primarily concerned with the problems of the newly emerging urban middle class, had concentrated all their concern for women with the problems experienced by women of the class. This image of suppressed, subjugated, and secluded Indian women, that is Hindu or Muslim, that preoccupied the Indian literature and their counterparts in the West, took no note of millions of the Indian women who formed the backbone of Indian economy and who were far greater victims of the colonial transformation of the economy and then even the men in their family. Okay, so just in the province of Bengal, 30 lakh women who formed one fifth of the women population of the province earned their livelihood from the hand spinning of cotton yarn in the late 18th century. Okay, so by the 19th century, their numbers had dwindled. A similar process hit women in the silk textile industry and other village industries in different regions of India. As early as 1920, a local women's organization in Surat was identifying the disappearance of village industries as the basic reason for the decline in women's economic and general status. Okay, so the women who formed nearly 50% of the workforce in the jute industry at the turn of century were rejects from the rural society. A single woman who had to come into town in search of a livelihood. Okay, so the tribal women who provided the major section of the plantation labor and in coal mines had all been uprooted from the agriculture or rural industries. Okay, so all the peasant movements that erupted the different parts of the country during the 19th and 20th centuries, women played a militant roles. Okay, so it is surprising that their problems remain outside the concern of the most reformers. Okay, so it is even more surprising that historians who have applauded the women participation in the freedom movement as one of the achievements of Mahatma Gandhi have never gone behind this charisma to provide an explanation for women's participation. Okay, so it is still more surprising that chronicles of peasant and labor movements of colonial period have paid so little and sometimes no attention to the role of women in these struggles. Okay, so in the when you see in the fifth and last phase, really set in the context of growing crisis in our society with increasing inequality, poverty, and the threats to the people rights. Okay, so the Committee on the Status of Women in India, which is it's, in between 1971-74, was inexorably forced to the conclusion of an increasing marginalization of women in the economy and society. Okay, so in the process, according to the data, began long before independence, in spite of the fact that these disturbing trends had been occasionally identified a few official social scientists. Okay, they had failed to attract any attention either from the experts who guided India's entry into the period of planned development or the community of social scientists who were trying to analyze different aspects of complex process of transformation going on in our society. Okay, so these are certain when you see the women question today, but this is not our criteria because we have to discuss the women question up to the colonial India. Okay, so no no need of going with women question at contemporary at present situation. Okay, so this is end of my lecture regarding the women's question in basically a, a colonial Indian society. Okay, so dear students, are you hearing my voice?
Yes, sir.
వింటున్నారా? ఓకే, సో ఇది మనకి ఏదైతే కలోనియల్ ఇండియాలకు సంబంధించినటువంటి ఉమెన్ క్వశ్చన్కి సంబంధించినటువంటి ఆ, ఏదైతే ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ ఇది. సో ఇక నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్లో చూద్దాం ఏదైతే మోడర్న్ పీరియడ్లో బేసికల్గా బిఫోర్ ద కలోనియల్ పార్ట్ అండ్ పోస్ట్ కలోనియల్ పార్ట్లో వచ్చినటువంటి రకరకాలైనటువంటి ఆ, ఏదైతే ఉమెన్ రిఫార్మ్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్స్ ఏదైతే ఫామ్ అయినాయి లేదా ఉమెన్ రిఫార్మర్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో సో వాళ్ళకు సంబంధించినటువంటి అంశాలు చెప్పుకొని ఏదైతే ఈ ఫస్ట్ మాడ్యూల్ని మనం ఉమెన్ స్టడీస్లో కంప్లీట్ చేసుకున్నాం. ఓకే, సో ఇక ఉమెన్ క్వశ్చన్కి సంబంధించి ఏమన్నా మీకు డౌట్స్ ఉంటే మీరు చెప్పవచ్చు. Any question regarding women question? Students, గోరి, శ్రీ విద్య, నాగరాజు, చిన్న నాగయ్య, దీనికి సంబంధించి ఏమన్నా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉన్నాయా?
Yes, sir.
ఏమైనా క్వశ్చన్ ఉంటే అడగొచ్చు, లేదంటే నేను క్లోజ్ చేస్తాను. ఓకే, రైట్. థ్యాంక్ యూ. ఐఎమ్ ఎండింగ్ మై క్లాస్ నౌ.
Thank you.